We, the directors, chose to perform Ash Girl with a steampunk style. We chose this because we thought by adding more of a metallic and mechanical look, it could change the style into something more dramatic and expressive. Using the steampunk concept, we wanted to really show that the magic in the play was mechanical. We want our audience to think of the magic that is not necessarily real, or only real for a short amount of time, but to think of that as gears turning. Gears cannot move on their own unless they are acted upon by an outside force, and they will only continue to keep turning as long as that force is there. In the same way, the magic in Ash Girl is only there because someone is causing it to be there. For example, the seven sins are visibly mechanical puppets to show that they are magical and we do not have to let them control us. Another example of this is that we wanted to show that although the carriage was real for a little while, it was still magic, and that would soon run out and the gears would stop turning. By choosing this style, we intended to accentuate advanced technology in a whole new, different perspective for the audience. We were fascinated with this idea of a random but accurate combination of ingredients, which led to the origin of steampunk, where definitely the historical context makes it even more satisfying. We thought adding a steampunk style to our concept of puppets would make them even more impressive and create an essence that would stay in the audience's mind.
In these following slides, I'll explain the reason for choosing each actor to interpret each role, regardless of whether it's a character where the whole body's on stage or the important thing is their voice interpreting a role as a puppet. As directors, for the role of Ash Girl, we wanted to emphasize on an emotional, expressive girl. That's why we thought Chloe would make a great job here. She knows how to manage emotions, transmit them naturally and with certainty. As the main character, she's able to demonstrate this rebellious attitude and completely capable of giving the audience that sense of a steampunk style with her good looking. For the stepsisters, for Ruth, we'll look more into a character who would transmit artist vibes rather than having the intention in meeting a prince. Ruth's role would be interpreted by Victoria Justice, very sympathetic. For Judith, we're looking to a character who would transmit security and intelligence. Elle Fanning will be interpreting this role in which science is more important in her life. The mother, preferably played by an older woman, is going to be interpreted by Charlize Theron, an extremely experienced actress who would stay in the audience mind as the mother who pushes her girls too hard. Paul will look for a guy who transmits ambition and optimism. As Amir's best friend, Nena Massoud, with a big smile on his face, was our best option to interpret this role. Princess Sarah and Prince Amir. Joshua, a super talented actress with a big trail, was the perfect character to interpret the wise old lady hosting the ball. Sarah's son, Amir, has everything prepared to find his wife. This role interpreted by Middle Eastern Ahmed Al-Saka Isaac Rikima. The other, interpreted by a sophisticated Ian Somerhalder, who would have to look often afraid. The fairy, interpreted by a beautiful and inspirational Jennifer Lawrence, and the old, interpreted by a wise Mina Kunis, were the best options for us. The Man in the Forest, interpreted by an older but doubtless brilliant actor, Johnny Depp. Both Mouses, interpreted by Revelation young actors Bobby Millie Brown and Gaten Matarazzo, were a best option. Then we have both Lost and Sadness, interpreted by Emma Stone and Kristen Stewart, actors more than acceptable and capable of transmitting emotions to the audience. And last but not least, we have the rest of Sins, whose voices are going to be interpreted by recognized actors such as Robert Downey Jr., Margot Robbie, Ken Reeves, Liam Neeson, Seth Rogen, Amber Heard, since they all will be puppets.
The theme that the directors chose gave me a lot of freedom to get creative with the set design. I decided to be minimal with the set, letting the lighting and the colors do more of the work. The backdrop is the silhouette of an industrial zone because it has that steampunk-like aesthetic of the setting. The sky in the backdrop is also dreary and cloudy. This adds to the theme. The house is supposed to be an unsettling place. With a large fireplace and very little furniture, it is not meant to be a place of comfort, but rather a place that keeps you on edge. You shouldn't be able to decide whether it's a good or a bad place. The palace is the one place in the play that will have bright lighting and inviting colors. It should give off a party-like atmosphere. Now, the forest is meant to be the opposite of the palace. It is dark, gray, gloomy, and sinister. This is the origin of all the evil in the play, and it shows. The rusted gears and old machines make it more of a scrapyard than a forest, but this was intentional due to the steampunk theme.
As far as the costumes, I'm going to start off by talking about the monsters because there's some colors that will affect other characters' costumes. As the director stated, we decided to do the monsters as puppets and that they're going to look mechanical, so I think they're going to look like these sculptures I found. They're going to move like this, operated by rods, sometimes on the floor, sometimes held by the actor. The non-monster animals, so that would be like the owl, the otter, and the mice, they're also going to be played by puppets, but they'll look more like realistic animals like in these pictures, not visibly mechanical like the previous pictures, because they're flesh and blood, they're real, they're Ash Girl's friends. Okay, so back to monsters. Each monster and each sin is going to have a different color, which we can then reflect in the costumes of the people who are influenced by that sin. So red for anger, green for envy, brown for gluttony, purple for pride, yellow for greed, and sloth is the most boring shade of blue that I could find. Steampunk clothing styles are really rooted in Victorian England clothing and in this industrial mechanical kind of aesthetic. So it has a lot of layers, lots of texture, lots of metal often in steampunk clothing. The characters whose costumes fit most closely to this are the mother and the stepsisters, so I'm going to start there. I think that their base clothing pieces would be pretty similar because mother is very controlling and I think she probably buys her daughters clothes for them. So probably all three of them are going to be wearing some kind of Victorian shirt with the collar and the sleeves, and then a corset worn over the shirt because that's very steampunky, and then a bustle skirt with lots of gathers. As far as individual aspects to their costumes, mother, her colors are going to be purple, yellow, and green. So that's pride, greed, and envy. And I think that the lacing on her corset, I couldn't find a picture that matched this, but I want it to be metallic to draw attention to it since she's so held back herself, so restrictive of her daughters. I also think that she would have some subtle jewelry because although she says, oh, people shouldn't show off, I think she has expensive taste. So she would have some jewelry. Ruth is all about comfort. Her corset is this softer, comfy looking brown leather with a convenient zipper that would be right up her street. Her colors are blue for sloth and brown for gluttony. Judith, on the other hand, has to have this tool belt because she's into all the shiny objects. So I think she needs this very steampunky belt to carry all of her jewelry and gadgets and keys and knives and magnifying glasses that she has on her. And her colors are yellow for gluttony. No, wrong color. Yellow for greed and purple for pride. The ball gowns for the mother and the stepsisters are going to be along those same lines, same character colors. Mother's style is a little bit more buttoned up, less overstated. The girls have a bigger bustle, but all of them will be in gloves because that's very Victorian and also referred to by the script, but because this is steampunk, they're going to be fingerless gloves. Ash Girl, her dress used to be nice Victorian ladies dress, but now it's very worn and dirty. It probably used to be fitted like this picture, but she's lost weight since then, so it's kind of big on her now. It used to be a pretty light pattern like that back picture with the floral, but it looks flat gray now, very dirty. Her ball gown, though, is very shiny, this reflective silver material with steampunky texture added by this sparkly silver lace, which will also cover the corset. The style of her dress, I wanted to have a smaller bustle than her sisters, but I wanted to have a train and to have short sleeves. Amir, Paul, and Zara are clearly foreign, but this steampunk world's equivalent of India would also have that steam technology, so his costume is also going to have those steampunk elements. I think the style of his costume is going to be more like this first picture with that open jacket, more casual for this kind of day outfit, but the colors are going to look like the second picture. His dominant color is red because he's so influenced by anger. The gold accents are going to be little pieces of metal, little gears and keys and stuff sewn to his clothes for that steampunk touch, and the crown is also made of gears. For the ball, I think that he's wearing all gold, which complements how Ash Girl is in all silver. And I think that his dress outfit would also have some steampunk epaulets because he mentions battles and fighting in a couple places in the script. For the final scene, his outfit has more balanced proportions of various colors. I didn't want him to go back to wearing the outfit that he had in the first scene because he's matured, so his clothes aren't dominated by red by that anger anymore. Princess Zara also wears a lot of gold, even more than her son. I think her first costume is a dress that looks kind of like this, although not white, I think it's this deep jewel tone kind of magenta, again with the steampunk accents, the metal on her dress, and a crown made of gears. For the ball, I think she would be in a formal sari. Again, lots of gold with this picture tie-ins to the previous magenta color. And for the final scene, the script says that she is in full dress, so I gave her another formal sari. This one has the same colors as her son's outfit for that final scene, because the scene has a lot to do with family connections, with Ash Girl reuniting with her father, like Ash Girl joining their family as she's getting engaged to Amir. So I wanted to underscore the connection between Amir and Zara. Paul dresses more Western than either of those two, so he's wearing this buttoned up jacket, although it would be in green, not red, because his vice is envy. He's got Victorian style boots and pants, and I think that he would also have this steampunky top hat with goggles. For the ball, I imagine him in this tailcoat jacket. Probably there's some green in there somewhere too, and his ascot would be green. And for the final scene, I think that he would be wearing a lot of the same pieces as the first scene, so the pants, the shoes, the hat, but without the green jacket, because he, like Amir, has matured. He's not as dominated by envy as he used to be. So now you can see his vest, which would have these steampunky accents as well. The fairy is going to be in very, very reflective fabric, mirrored, shiny. She won't have wings, but I wanted to kind of suggest wings with the big, dramatic shoulder shapes in this dress. To balance those big shoulders, her skirt is a little narrower. She'll also have a corset, which will be silver and shiny, not like that picture. Sadness is going to be in this very simple, kind of bedraggled Victorian style dress, but flat gray, not brown, kind of similar to Ash Girl's. She is going to be in a metallic half mask with gears and stuff. This is to connect her to the clockwork mechanical monsters. Although she's human shaped, she's not human. She's on the same team as the monsters. She is not Ash Girl's friend. Lust is kind of the same way, although she's in black. I think her corset would look like kind of a combination of those two pictures. She also has this mechanical half mask because she is also Team Monster. The man in the forest, I think that his main color is going to be gray to correspond with the dominant colors of the forest, probably some black to tie in with lust. His clothes would originally have looked like this picture, like a decently well-off Victorian male outfit, but he's also been living in the forest for a few years, so they would probably be very torn and dirty by now. And finally, the otter turns into a footman for the evening of the ball. He would be dressed like a Victorian footman, but with some funky touches to his jacket and silver goggles.
For the advertisement, because our directors chose the steampunk effect, I wanted to go for a rusted metal kind of vibe. So for the background, I chose rusted out gears. And for the font, as you can tell, it has a bunch of steampunky effects in it. For example, the I is a smokestack, the G is half a gear, inside the R there's a gear, and stuff like that. And as you can tell around the edges, I put it to be a little darker than in the middle. I did this because the steampunk effect is also dark in most places. And as you can tell, the font and the color of the lettering gets darker as you go down the screen. I also did this to add to the steampunk effect. And all throughout the presentation itself, I decided to go with a rusted sheet metal kind of vibe. As you can tell, this also goes with the steampunk effect. It's simple yet effective in my eyes because it still conveys a steampunk idea as well as it doesn't take away from the actual information that is on the screen. So that is why I chose what colors and what fonts I did. Here's our sources.